Hello and welcome to the Seneca County IDA. We have 3 audit committee meetings today. First, we'll do the IDA Audit Committee, followed by the EDC, and then the Seneca County Funding Corp. So the first one of the 3 is for the IDA. We have a quorum here, so we'll start. First item on the agenda is approval of the IDA Audit Committee meeting minutes from March 14th of this year. Tom and I both received a copy.
Yep.
Any questions? You're fine. So motion to approve.
So made.
I'll second. All in favor?
We are.
Yep. Aye. Motion carried. So the minutes are approved. Second item is the review and recommendation of the engagement letter for the 2022 IDA audit.
So you have in your packet an engagement letter from Mengel, Metzger, and Barr to once again do our audit. They have the fee proposed in here. And of course, the pages aren't numbered, so I cannot tell you what page number it's on.
Towards the end.
But the regular audit would be $11,375, and then the single audit, which is for the revolving loan fund, would be $1,975.
Yep.
And that's
$13,350.
yeah. And that is.
What was that up?
Let me look at the specifics here. So last year,
It's an increase of 7.5.
thank you, Kelly,
All right.
saving me the looking through the spreadsheet. So not much of an increase. Obviously, there was the one error that occurred this past year on the audit that we that our accountant caught and they corrected. Obviously, Bob expressed concerns about that and you know, their system of checks moving forward.
Obviously, when we have the engagement meeting,
Yeah.
that will be discussed.
I guess, do either of you have questions or concerns?
Yeah.
So, yeah, standard. Okay. With that said, have a motion to approve the engagement letter.
So made.
I'll second. Kelly?
Mr. Kine,
Yes.
Mr. Russo,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is a review of the IDA long-term forecast.
And there is a new copy actually on the table, Tom. We had to make a couple of small changes because we noticed that we had an error in a couple of numbers.
Okay.
So the first forecast we'll look at is sort of our typical recap forecast, $400,000 of income annually. Obviously, that's not counting what we're forecasting for the remainder of this year or for the new budget. So it looks like for 2022, we would expect to come out at the end of the year with 1.02 million surplus, and we would have about 2.9 million in cash available as of the end of this year, provided, of course, that the timing for everything works out.
Yeah.
And then for the budget for next year, the agency fees that you see there, the 675, that is largely half of the Trilliana agency fee. We're planning to do half because they want to close on the sales tax exemption prior to being able to close on the pilot. So we're going to bill in halves. So we're budgeting.
And do they really feel one will be one time a year and the next year, or
They are
far
wanting to
apart?
start ordering materials, which is why they need their sales tax exemption, but we aren't really able to close on a pilot until they've exercised their lease options with all of the landowners.
Yeah.
And they don't do that until they're just about ready to start construction. So the timeline is a little bit different for those two items.
will any of that sales tax end up in this year? Then the revenue from that.
Yes, yes. So we had half of that budgeted for this year and then
Okay,
half
so that's why
budgeted
we're
for
up
next year.
besides
So
that.
that's why our forecast
Was so
is
high,
so
yeah.
high for revenue.
That's the question I had. Okay.
Yep.
is
So
that?
we're looking at, based on our budget for 2023, $262,000 surplus, bringing our cash on hand up to 3.19 million. And again, that's just with the one agency or half the agency fee from Trelina, the annual Scepter payment we have, the annual Finger Lakes Rail payment, the Del Lago income. And then the other operating revenues would be the county support, as well as some loan interest and things that are scheduled. Then 2024 to 2028, we're forecasting just purely based on the 400,000 of income. You will notice that the Del Lago payments, the last year for that is 2024. At that point, that drops off. And again, based on budget trends, we would start to show net losses in those years.
Mhm.
By 2028, our cash on hand would come down to an estimated 2.5 million. And then the next scenario is the worst case. Go ahead.
Is there any way, depending upon the timing and how close that is to year end, to treat that all as one thing and have it as receivables, not instead of having 1 year way up and 1 year way down and all that, and it's really for a project, the whole thing's going next year. Is there any way to look at that and have that income tied with that whole project and come into next year instead of showing, $1 million in this year of income?
Yeah.
Should there be any kind of support, then the next year it falls back off. I would just look at how close it is to year end, and is there some way to put that whole package as one thing and look at
Specifically for the Trelina?
yeah, just that one, right? Because it is part of a whole
Yeah, we
one
could.
project.
It's I mean, they've said they want to close on a sales tax exemption portion this year, but finding more and more lately with these projects that the timings are never really as soon as they say they want them to be.
That's what happened.
And it's becoming a point of frustration a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I would not be surprised, given that we're already in September. I would not be surprised if maybe
Yeah.
that revenue actually does come in next year.
Yeah.
So
If that's the case, I wouldn't push it to do it this year, because it's really a project that was going to be one whole project and planned for next year. And instead of, again, showing a huge year 1 year, and then you could end up in a loss the next year, I'm not sure that it benefits anything. It's kind of like when we took in property or land all of a sudden. It was like, God, look at all the money you guys brought in 1 year. We never need to support you. We don't need to do this. We don't need to do that. It'd be better to have it be more representative of.
So would
The
you
year.
sort of
I would,
want to, even if we can close this year on sales tax, but essentially bill and
I
receive
would, I
next
would
year?
treat it all as one project and bill it to be paid, part of it at the
In
beginning of
January.
next year, and then, the second half, whenever you're going to get that part of it. But,
Okay.
just talk that over and look at it.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just a recommendation to look at that if there's an appropriate way to do that.
okay.
Because the other side of it too is they're trying to be consistent in how we
Yeah.
plot these numbers too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, so we'll look at that. If we do decide to change it, you'll see
Yeah. You just
between
would
now and the
change your
board meeting,
budget,
you'll
yeah.
see that reflected obviously here, but also in the
Yeah.
budget.
Yep.
So we'll talk about if that makes sense and look at the numbers.
Yeah,
that
it's
we're
the
doing.
only reason I'm bringing it up. You guys can
No problem.
take a look at it and see.
Any other questions related to this first one?
Nope.
Okay, then let's look at the worst case scenario, which is known revenues only. Obviously, this is much worse, especially now with the Del Lago fund set to run out. The only real consistent revenue that we would be having would be from Scepter and then from the county. So you see, starting in 2025, the operating revenues would be about 106,000, bringing our operating cash down to 1.14 million. But we'd still have cash available. We'd still be able to run. So, that's good news. And let's hope that this worst case never does come to be.
Yep.
course, that's a very conservative look.
Yeah, and we kind of always have that out in the future. You don't know what they're going to be, so you can't count them. And you know, our job, your job, is to figure out projects and things that are going to generate revenue. And so, but it's always good to understand that, you know, we don't have some consistent revenue source coming in on an ongoing basis. If there isn't a project,
There's
the income.
Yeah.
And you know, a couple years of that would put us in a very tight position.
Yes. So that's
Okay.
that.
So yeah, next on the agenda then is a review of the proposed 2023 IDA budget.
Yes, so again, there is a slightly updated version on the table for you. Again, we've already really talked through sort of the forecast for this year. I will just highlight some of the changes that we made. We had an error. Initially, there was an extra 0 on the estimated agency fee for Best Made. And then we have added in as well the loan commitment fee that we charge, which is 1% of the loan amount on the RLF income side. But just to go over, because we've already sort of talked about the forecast, we can talk more about the specifics. Agency fees, again, this is subject to change depending on which year we decide to allocate the Trelina funds. But as of this document, it's split 50-50 between 2022 and 2023, would be showing agency fees totaling $1.283 million. The annual $54,000 from the county, again, the $100,000 from Del Lago. RLF income is budgeted to be $11,471 before the end of this year, and that's only slightly less in the proposed budget for next year, and that's largely due to the interest income from the loans that we do have out that are approved. And that number has been updated to include the Best Made loan as well, which we're closing on Friday. And then we've got our IDA interest income, which is the CD in our other banks. For this year, we're estimating $4,400. For 2023, we're budgeting about $8,500. I think that's in large part because our CD rate has gone up. And then property sales of $37,000 again for this year, nothing for next year as of this time in that column, and then our usual miscellaneous income. Payroll, so payroll for this year is forecast to be $212. You'll actually notice that the proposed budget for next year is $204. That does include sort of the 3% that we usually put in increase in the budget. It's higher this year largely because of Pat's payout from her exit. And then, you know, benefits at $115 for this year, $127 for next year.
What do you put in here for health insurance and things, increased cost in that? What kind of percent is that you're seeing? That
It's 1.03
I mean, you're probably your health insurance costs probably going up 15 to 20%.
Could be.
I wouldn't know that though until I get the.
You haven't gotten a bid on that already?
No. But I can account for a higher amount.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's have gone up.
Practical.
They've gone up a fair amount. I'm seeing anywhere from 12 to 20%.
Okay.
So it's just,
Probably.
yeah. And again, I don't know your program or experience ratings and all the different things that yours is based off of, but what I'm seeing out there is they're going up pretty good.
There are ugly numbers out there.
Yeah, they are.
And we will work on trying to get an updated number for that is going to more accurately reflect. Professional fees and services. So this one, we've got our annual $10,000 that we usually budget as sort of a contingency for Fisher Associates in case we need it for some engineering work. We have not actually used any of that as of this year. We have it still in there in the forecast, but it's probably unlikely that we actually will. The audit, obviously, we've already talked about that. That number is in that professional fees and services amount as well. We did add in for 2023 $5,000 for a public relations line item, as we have some projects where we may be looking to do some more proactive press and maybe working with a firm. On the accounting side, that is going to be the same as what we've budgeted historically. That's going to be $7,000. Business retention, again, that's the same as usual, $15,000. Although we don't typically hit that amount. So this year we're actually forecasting that we'll hit $9,000 on that contract with Jim Armstrong. CFO, $12,000. Bookkeeper, $8,100. Appraisal services, $1,000. We did actually use $1,000 this year for the appraisal that was done for Deer Run lots in order to be transferred. We have another $1,000 in the budget for next year, just in the event that we need it. Live streaming, we've been able to cut that thanks to the improved technology and simplicity of setup here. So that estimate has come down by about half. It's now $5,700 instead of $10,000. Internet and network support, that's about the same as it typically is. We're estimating $5,100 for next year, and that's obviously our IT support. Payroll services, $3,500, and then legal costs, we have budgeted $15,000, which is what we typically budget. This year, we're estimating to spend $5,000 of that actually, as most of the legal fees are paid through the projects.
Yep.
So that brings our professional fees. We're estimating this year to spend about $81,000. We're budgeting about $98,000 for the new year. On the general office side, we're expecting this year to spend $16,000 and budgeting $11,000. The reason for the change was furniture, equipment, which was
A new printer
new printer copier, phones, those kinds of things. So we don't expect to have those expenses next year. Let's see. Admin and technical, that we are expecting to go up a little bit, but you'll see that it's mostly just because we're moving the numbers around a little bit. So this was something that we had intended to do when we updated the chart of accounts, but I think it wasn't fully consistent until now. So on the admin and technical, we have a subcategory for dues and subscriptions. As of this year, we're showing that we're going to spend about $3,900. But in reality, that dues and subscriptions should be higher because it should be reflecting all of our memberships to agencies like GRE, the Chamber, IEDC, any of those. And GRE, we had always previously booked as a marketing and promotion expense. So that's why this year's, the 2023 budget is going to look higher. It's not actually different. We have just now put all of those line items together.
It's a reclassification.
So
Makes sense.
otherwise, there's no difference in that category. Insurance, $7,000. Let's see. Miscellaneous. So this, again, there's no change. Our meetings and other miscellaneous items, $2,000. Travel and conferences, budgeting $5,000. Repairs and maintenance, $3,500. That's largely the expense of the mowing and upkeep over at Deer Run Industrial Park. marketing and promotion, there is still 5,000 remaining there. That would be for actual marketing and promotion, potential website updates or whatever else. And then RLF expense, which includes underwriting and legal and the audit, are all in that category there. Then we do have some other income and expenses. So we've got 17,000 that has been spent and that was spent last year. You'll see 2021 actuals, and we're expected to receive that this year in the actual income. So that is our grant, just the timing of payments from the state. And then we have about 93,000 remaining in that grant. And that's what we'll be discussing with the board at the next meeting, potentially, to get approval of an RFP to do a highest and best use study for Willard. We do have approval from the state to use the remainder of those grant funds for that study. Which brings me to, on the other expenses side, obviously we have the expense for the remainder of the grant, the 93,000. We have added 100,000 for site development. And that was intended in the event that a highest and best use study is more than what our grant can cover, that we would have some funds.
You're actually talking about from a study perspective, or actually spending money and starting to do some type of work there?
This would all be from the study perspective. So we have a site development line that we put in here when we did the chart of accounts to sort of incorporate things that are sort of our non-typical operating expenses that would classify studies or actual development. So, the term could be a little bit, I suppose, misleading in this particular case, but it's meant to be open-ended to refer to.
But you're talking about $93,000 and $100,000?
Yes. So the 93 we have,
I think
that's
we better
our.
have a pretty good talk before we spend $193,000 up there.
Yes. And part of that is because we don't have any estimates going into it as to how much a study would cost. The Fisher Associates work that was done on Hillside, and that was really just an assessment of the buildings and the facility. That did not get into sort of the appraisal of the facility, and it did not get into, what it could be. That was a little over $50,000, I think, is what we had to determine around there. And then obviously the industrial park study that we were having done was going to be approximately 110, which was the remainder of the grant. So using those as a reference, we're talking in round numbers about essentially $200,000 for this, which is probably an overestimate given.
You just would have to have a really good case. We would have had to talk about what's the end game? What do you think we're doing here? Spending it on what could be an industrial park certainly falls within our bailiwick. Up here is a whole different thing. So are we spending that kind of money to turn it over for somebody else to develop and make money off of? What is it we're going to do with that? Where's the payback to the county and whatnot on that? And so buying land that, we think sewer is going to go in, and we think there's a larger company that's going to come here. That's clearly kind of in our realm of what we do. If we're doing what would really be a, whatever, lake development or resort or whatever we're going to do with it. I went up and drove around there, by the way, and went, and I'm impressed with a lot of things, so I'm not negative on it at all. But we certainly would have to have a real good idea of what we think we're doing, spend $200,000. So putting it, my only reason for saying that is to say, okay, we've got $200,000 in the budget here. I'm saying, yes, I agree with we allocate the money. So if we do that, I'm not, we put something in the budget, it means it's there, the board approves it, you can spend it. I'm not saying we're approving spending $200,000 on that.
Right.
So I just want to clarify the difference between the two.
And
Yes, I think that.
We did go through that in detail.
Yes.
This is here as it gives us the option so that if we're in that position, we don't have the excuse of, well, we didn't account for it in the budget. We'd like to do it, but so this is us
Essentially,
accounting
it's a
for
contingent
it.
item.
Yeah, it's a placekeeper, and I'm fine with
Yes.
that.
Right.
I just want to make it clear in the minutes
Yeah.
and ourselves that, that doesn't mean we're,
Yeah,
again, in
things
my
would have
budgets,
to
if we
align.
approve a couple $1 million or something, that, that's there in management. I don't want to put it in here saying
No,
we're
we
just
still
going to do
have
that.
our procurement guidelines we'd have to follow. That says contracts over a certain amount have to be approved by the board separately. So we certainly
We're on, we're on the
plan
same
to do
page. I just
that.
want to make sure we're all.
I think there's
Yeah.
enough oversight here that
Yeah.
will take place properly.
And we'll talk about this more at our next board
sure,
meeting, because
yeah.
I've been doing a lot of conversing, especially with other IDA directors, because there are obviously other correctional facilities that were shut down, trying to figure out how other counties are approaching the redevelopment.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody's a little bit different, but have been getting some very interesting insights from them. A lot of counties are planning to move forward and making their own purchase offer to New York State to buy back essentially these properties, because nobody really expects New York State to just deed over the facility to the respective county. So they're looking at it. I don't know how much money everybody's offering. I know that they're sort of getting their own appraisals done and going based on that. But they're making plans to purchase, and then they would be redeveloping, listing them on the market.
But there's a huge differential between different counties, what it could be used for, their cash positions. There's a
Yes.
lot of things that takes place, and it's different with us than somebody else. And even property or facilities like that in some locations may have some other really great uses. Ours is probably going to be a little more creative. And so I can easily say where I'm going to get my money back. What I don't want to do is spend $200,000 on it if come, and when we get all done, who's going to buy old their facilities from a prison out here? What are they going to do with it? How are they going to use it? I don't want to do that, spend all that money. Then what we'll do is we'll get developers coming in and say, well, if you give it to me, then I'll try to think of something to do with it. I'm not into spending $200,000 to have somebody say, turn it over. We had enough of that with the whole depot thing. Just give it to us.
No, I think the purpose of a study like this would be to inform us and to inform others, so that we're in a position where we know what it's worth. We know what the best use is. We've done some of the preliminary
I agree with all that.
research as far as marketing it, but
I agree with all that, except for the comment, we know what it's worth. It's only worth what you can sell it for or do with it. So it's
true.
It's the best use part is helpful. The study I'm all in favor of, and just say this.
It could incorporate, though, the aspects of an appraisal. We could come out of it with a value of the property for whatever that's worth.
I go appraise a home for certain things. I'm pretty comfortable with those appraisals. I appraise a property like this. It's going to come down to what you can do with it. You can take the cost of building it. You can take the property, and you still got to have some defined use for it. You got to have somebody willing to spend the money. We finance a lot of developments, and you've seen them up. This is worth $3 million, and a year later, somebody's trying to get $1 million back out after they put $2 million in it. So. I actually probably more positive on it than you think I am coming up with my concerns, but I do have concerns. I do like it. I'm all in favor of doing things that we're talking about. I'm just saying we got to go in. We're not.
Your eyes open.
Yeah, haven't done a lot of development here, and there's only so many opportunities here to do that. I'd love to pursue it. I'd love to see something good happen with it, and I'd be glad to be part of facilitating that. We don't have so much cash here that we can sit and say we're going to spend several $100,000 and then also, buy it and do everything else and then carry it for several years. We just got to be cautious what we do. That's all.
So that was really the last major line item on this budget. Again, and this is just based on when we've chosen as of right now to book the Trelina funds, showing $266,000 surplus for 2023 and a 1.046 million one for 2022. We'll look at, potentially changing that. But even with the extra being proposed potentially to be spent, we're showing ourselves in a pretty good position for next year, which is always nice.
Any other questions, comments?
No, I'm fine with this. Just put those comments on
Definitely,
using
yeah,
this
we
money
knew that was
appropriately
coming, yeah.
there in the minutes.
And definitely, I need other partners in this
kind
whole
of
thing.
and then kind of a footnote in the budget noting that's in here, but obviously we're going to be doing a lot of thinking.
For disclosure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So therefore, can I have a motion to approve the proposed budget?
So made.
I'll second. Kelly?
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Kime?
Yes.
Motion
And any other business?
No.
If not, motion to adjourn?
So made.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. So we're done with the IDA Audit Committee. Jeff Shipley's not here yet. We'll move ahead to the Seneca County Funding Court. So with that, we received in our packets a copy of the Audit Committee meeting minute from March 14th. Have any questions or concerns with these?
I'll move they be accepted.
I'll second. Yes. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Second item is review of the engagement letter.
Okay. So again, the engagement letters with Mengel Metzger Bar. We have an estimated fee here on just about the third to last page, I think it is. The fee is not to exceed $2,275 for the audit and $675 for the work related to our Paris reporting.
I move we accept the engagement letter of proposal.
Okay, I'll second. Kelly, roll call.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Then the last item is review of the proposed budget for 2023.
So this is much simpler.
Must took you quite a while to put this together.
Yeah. This was a lot more complicated than the IDA.
You use an awful lot of zeros on this one.
Yeah. No, so as you'll see on the revenue side, it's zeros, right from our 2021 actuals straight through our 2023 proposed budget. However, the expense side obviously is not quite the same, although really our expenses are limited to basically the audit. We do have 1,000 budgeted for legal costs. We haven't had to use it, but it's there as a contingency. And then we have, some other expenses budgeted, 500 miscellaneous, 500 special fees and payments. Again, we haven't had to actually use that, but we are budgeting expenses of $4,950. Our forecast for this year is $2,835, which is more likely what next year would actually be looking like. It would be essentially just the $2,900 for the audit.
I would move we accept the budget proposal for 2023 as presented.
I'll second. Kelly?
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
So any other business? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Motion carried. Last item, we'll move that into the EDC portion of the Joint Audit Committee meetings. We do have a quorum with 2 out of 3. So we'll start with that. First item is approval of the Audit Committee meeting minutes from March 14th. We received a copy in our packet. Tom, any questions or
Nope.
comments?
I'm fine with it.
So motion to
I made.
approve. I'll second. Let's see, just do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Motion carried. Next item is a review of the engagement letter for the EDC for this year.
Okay, again, the engagement letter is from Mengel Metzger Bar for the audit. They are proposing $5,385 for the regular audit. And this is near the end of that packet. Again, it's like the third to last, second to last page. And then $1,250 for the tax returns, for a total of $6,635 for the EDC. And that is about $605 more than
Last year.
last year.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's, a lot of expense for a agency that's doing almost nothing.
Hopefully,
Well, it's actually 285. We got rid of the cemetery, so that's no longer.
That's part of it too.
It comes
Yeah,
out of
so
that.
the cemetery was 875 last year, so now with just the EDC, it's an increase of 285.
okay. Thank you, Kelly.
So, so with that, motion to approve the engagement letter.
So made.
I'll second. Kelly?
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Kyle?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, absent, motion carried.
Next item is review of the long-term forecast.
So for the EDC, we only do the worst case, as this tends to be the actual case for this one, I guess, in the sense of we budgeted or estimated $400,000 in revenue, things would be looking very positive in the EDC. So for this year, we are forecasting a decrease in cash on hand of just over $14,000, which is expected to bring our operating cash available down to $148,000. Based on our budget, and I think the years are just wrong as far as the numbers. But based on our budget, we are estimating, again, a cash decrease of $13,860, so a little bit smaller than this year, but again, decreasing cash on hand to about $134,000. And then, we have really throughout that time just $100 in interest income. Again, the ongoing professional fees, and we build in an estimate of inflation into here as well as our other expenses. By 2027, we would have an estimated $58,923 cash on hand. Questions?
So next item is a review of the proposed EDC budget.
So again, this is very simple. We are proposing again, $6,635 for the auditor, $3,000 for the CFO, nothing for the accountant. Ever since we took the cemetery out, we have since updated the contract with our accountant to be just for the IDA now. Let's see, insurance, $2,000, other $325, for our total expenses of $13,960. And then at the bottom, you can see what the combined was in previous years with the cemetery. Obviously, that has now come off the books. So 2023 will be our first audit without the cemetery.
Yeah, we do no bookkeeping, no expenses, no anything on that anymore.
We still do bookkeeping. Ellie does that, but we pay for her contract entirely through the IDA. So we don't have the accountant specifically do anything for it, as there's not activity.
She's still doing the accounting for that?
This is for
For the
the
EDC.
cemetery.
Oh, for the
No,
cemetery.
no, I'm talking.
Not
For the
for the
cemetery.
cemetery, no.
So,
That's what I meant for the
Yeah.
cemetery. We do,
oh no, we don't do anything for the
Nothing.
cemetery. No,
Yeah.
that's been transferred to the county.
yeah, you had me.
Sorry. I thought you were referring
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
no,
It's not in our hands.
Yeah, okay.
no, cemetery operations are fully transferred to the county. Everything is run through their
Yeah,
finance
that's what I
office.
figured. Okay.
So any questions,
Nope.
comments? If not, motion to approve the budget.
So made?
I'll second. Kelly?
Mr. Conning?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Any other business today?
No,
No. Not. Motion to adjourn?
So made?
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Efficiently ran.